Welcome, everyone. For you of those that don't know me, my name's Jeff, aka Mad Hatter Organics, and this is the Growers Exchange podcast. I wanted to start this podcast to get more information out there about different growers, breeders, and industry companies. So stick with us as we exchange all types of grower knowledge. First off, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Autopot USA, for the best plant driven automated watering system out there. Use discount code MADHATTER10 on autopot-usa.com for 10% off your entire order. And Intralite, for the last stop shop for IPM. Want the easiest way to get rid of those bugs and pathogens? Just plug in a single Intra ring light into your tent and set it on a timer. These lights will take care of business. Use discount code MADHATTER5 for 5% off your entire order over at intralight.co. Now, let's get started with the conversation. Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of the Growers Exchange podcast. For you guys that don't know me, like I said in my intro, my name's Jeff, Mad Hatter Organics. I want to take a second here just to let you guys know that I'm going to be moving this platform over to my new YouTube channel called the Growers Exchange Podcast. If you wouldn't mind going over there, hitting that subscribe button, making sure that bell is turned on so you get notified every time I drop a new episode. And yeah, I'll be slowly moving everything over that way. That way I won't get censored by the YouTube algorithm. I like to kind of keep my medicinal plant talk and updates and everything on my Mad Hatter channel, and then bring all this podcast chat over to that new channel. So, with all that being said, I'd like to welcome my guest for my third episode here, Roxanne from Tradworm Industries. Thanks.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for coming on. I'm super excited about this one. It's all about worms and worm poop.
Uh, yeah, that's that pretty much. Well, you know how you go to these sort of fancy schmancy things and they're like, "Hi, I'm Joe Awesome Pants and I am a brain surgeon with 12 PhDs and hi, I am a microphysicist and oh, hi, I have changed the way we do I don't know, whatever, super smarty pants." And then people are like, "So what do you do?" And I'm like, I am a worm farmer, and it usually shuts the conversation down. They're like, "What?" So yeah, it's one of those things. People don't really know what to say. So I'm very thankful that I get to be here and we get to talk about that.
Yeah, it's awesome. I think the kind of the very first time I was introduced to you and your company was I went to the local grow shop and picked up a bag of Tradworm Industries worm poop, worm castings. Kind of
Yeah.
got interested and was realized that it was a company from my town, and I reached out to you, I guess probably over Instagram or something. But I
Oh,
think
yeah.
we met about 2 years ago for the first time. Came out to your farm, your facility there, and you gave me a quick little tour of it. And I, I fell in love with the conversations that we had. You're super knowledgeable. You have so much to talk about. You have so much experience with all the different schooling you've gone through. Um, the medicinal plant variety schooling you had. Uh, yeah, I guess let's start from the beginning. How did you get your company to where it is? What made you want to get into worm castings?
Yeah, I tend to have verbal diarrhea about worms because I am boggled daily at the simplicity, the humble simplicity of a worm and what amazing things it can do. So it all stemmed from I had a career, I retired, I was gonna stay home, be a Stepford wife, and I don't know, bake cookies and I don't know. I don't know what I thought I was gonna do. And in the middle of that was the opportunity to go back to school. So I had already gone to U of A along like 30 years ago. And then I decided I needed to go back to school because at the time the AER was talking about farms that had orphan wells, and the farmers themselves were going to be required to um, part and parcel pay for the reclamation of wells. And I thought, I'm retired. I got a farm. I got some wells. I don't want to pay like 80, 90,000. I'll pay myself because I thought I was super smarty pants. Well, so I went back to school, got the ticket, and in the middle of that, our kid got sick. Our middle daughter got sick. And one of the things that, after all of the sort of shenanigans of that, one of the things that we said, what triggered a super healthy 16, 17-year-old kid get sick like that and develop an autoimmune? And one of the things that they talked about was, well, environmental poisoning is maybe something that could trigger it. And I'm like, ugh, no. Oh, I felt my mother coming through. The lever, right? Like, oh my goodness. And I was like, no way. Like, we live on a farm. We grow our own food. We butcher our own cows. How on earth would my kid get sick like that? That's just
Mhm.
foolishness. And then, yeah, it was one of those light bulb moments. My dad loved chemicals. Uh, when we started farming when I was a little kid, we used to fallow, where we would let the soil rest for a year. We didn't do that. We pushed every year more chemicals, more fertilizer, more chemicals, more fertilizer. And I was like, well, maybe. So after my dad died, so in the middle of this, my dad died, my kid was sick, and and we were cleaning out the Quonset where my dad kept stored chemicals, and there was a chemical called Glean in there, and Glean was a biocide. And I remember as a little kid, my dad would be like, okay, don't go anywhere near that, don't touch that. And he would have
Yeah.
gloves on and stuff, and I'm like, okay, well, why? Like, it triggered one of those weird things, in that sick chemical smell from Glean. And sorry, am I like, woo? Am I like hopping all over the place? Maybe I
No,
had
no, keep going.
coffee
No.
too late in the afternoon. Okay, so this Glean sort of was like, oh, well, maybe we did do chemicals. Oh, yeah, we actually did chemicals, and a lot of chemicals. And so it didn't seem so strange. And after she had gone through, so she was diagnosed with an autoimmune, and they used chemo to try to kickstart her immune system and see if we could like kick it through there. And after the um sort of all these really harsh drugs and all the chemo, and being 17 years old at the time she was going through it, one of the doctors, actually in Medicine Hat, who I have a lot of respect for, said, maybe we need to look at other things. And that's when the talk about medicinal therapies came into it. And I was like, absolutely not. So we had addiction in our family, and I was like, no, no, like that is the gateway to,
Mm.
we are going to be shooting heroin between our toes in 3 days. That's what I thought. And I was like, and then I was in school, and I thought, okay, Roxanne, you stop being a tool. Like, stop being so ignorant about this. If this is something that somebody who you respect is saying, pull your head out of your butt for 4 minutes and start really looking at what this is. And so I'm like, oh, well, maybe this isn't as bad as I thought. Maybe this approach to a more natural way to dealing with all the side effects from these drugs, well, maybe that's what I should look at. And then I'm like, oh, but hold on a second. In Canada at the time, the protocols were, most medicinal was being grown in Rockwool and fed organic synthetic fertilizer. And I'm like, what? A minute here. We're trying to get this poor little kid away from all this really synthetic, gross things. Isn't there a better way? And then, yeah, sure as crap, there it was. The University of Michigan was doing trials on growing and practices on growing. And I think in 35 trials that they had done, big blown trials, worm castings were outgrowing, outproducing, out cleaning than any other growing method that they were trying. And when they put that in combination with stuff, it was even more apparent how remarkable these little worms. So I had had a worm bed in our house since 1997, just a little one, because we've we lived not in town, so garbage pickup was a foreign thing, and I was lazy and I didn't want to compost because composting is complicated.
Yeah.
Now I know how to compost because I went back to school and got a ticket to composting, which
Yeah.
is people think you throw crap in a pile, and that is wow, that is not true. So we had a worm bed in the house, and I said to one of my professors, actually Brent Smith, who is probably one of the smartest men I've ever known, the way that he can organize chaos in the environment is really outstanding. And I said, "Do you think I could do this? Like, do you think this is doable? Like, I don't particularly want to be a grower, though I did go to Ol's and get a grow ticket, because I thought I needed to understand how to grow and why different practices produce better, more quality. But that was never my intention. I wanted to produce castings, really good castings, so people who are in our situation could grow themselves, and we would give them castings. And that is where we started this mission. And so that went really, really friggin' quick. So in the very first year, do you want to know how I got to here? Is this
Yeah.
or is
Yes.
it
Keep going with the
you
whole
have
story.
to
I love it. Yeah.
guide me? Okay, so I was going to school at the time, and so I was old compared to everybody else. Like I was their mom slash grandma. I mean, depending on how old you pound out a kid at 18, I could have been some of these kids' grandma, and it was weird. And I'm like, so it was a hard thing, but time management, I was pretty good at that. And, raising a family, having a full-time career, farming, all that sort of stuff. So I was good at time management. And so he's like, Roxanne, go and pitch. So I was incredibly lucky that the medicine college at the time were having pitch competition. So I went into this pitch competition. The very first one was actually at the bar, and I went. I was not prepared. I had no idea what I was doing. So I went to the pitch competition and got up there, had my little can of worms, said, I want to do this, give me money. And I thought, well, this is a no-brainer. Everybody wants to give me money. Nope. I got my butt handed to me. I dropped the F-bomb because I was nervous. I
Oh.
clearly did not win that one. I got, and it's funny because a bunch of, you know, what do you call them? Young people who are at a bar looking, you know, yeah, it was a disaster. So, but I won People's Choice Award because it was such a disaster, and they were like, okay, whatever. So, anyways, I lost that pitch competition. I thought this is stupid. Not that lack of confidence. That's not my thing because you get to the certain point in your life and you just don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But your ego takes an absolute beating.
Yeah. Little
Oh, it
ego
takes a
check.
beating. Oh, bend over. Yeah, no lube, and we are like having not a pleasant evening. But then I got some counsel from Christy Wilson at the college, and I got some business mentors, and I got some biology and environmental mentors, and we did it a few more times, and I won quite a few big pitches. We won Apex, we won the college, we won the 150 roundup, and that seed money helped us start, because like I know that I said I'm old, but I retired. So my poor husband, who is probably the kindest man on the planet, and every day I am so grateful that he hasn't, snuffed me out in the night. Because he's like this, Roxanne, did you cash out more retirement RSPs? I'm like, yeah, I did. So the seed money was a gift, right? Like I was so grateful to get the seed money. And so we bought about 10,000 worms from a very small company. And then we just let her rip. And what I've learned, I never wanted to be a businessman. My nature is, um, I'm not being smarty pants, but my nature is very generous. Like if I have one, I'll give you half. That's just because I think everybody's got potential to be, and I've been incredibly blessed in my life. I had a great career. I was lucky, unbelievably lucky. And so being hyper generous and starting a business, not necessarily the
Yeah.
best bedfellows. So
Yeah.
I was incredibly lucky that I got to have the seed money and start, and what an incredible thing that was. So at the beginning of this company, so in 2018 we got incorporated. At the beginning of this company, I wanted to just make worm castings, give them away, sell them for my cost, so that anybody that wanted to grow um, could be like, yes, here's some castings, go grow stuff, be healthy. But in 2018, I read the paper and I was absolutely gobsmacked. So we live in a town that's about 60, well, I live close to a town that you live in. It's about 60,000 people, 68,000. And it, and the city was putting $28 million, $28 million aside for a new landfill. I'm like, just a minute here. Hold on a second. So what is the GMP in Medicine Hat, right? Like 28 million seems like a pretty significant part of that. And I'm like this, just a minute. I have worms. I have quite a few worms, a few million. They eat garbage. How can we make this work so that we are utilizing landfill diverted organic waste to feed worms? And I'm like, hold on. That was one of those I love the Christmas movie Elf, right? Like honestly, I feel like I relate to him because I think sunshine shines out of my butt every day. Every day I wake up, generally 99.9% of the time I'm happy when I wake up because I'm like, get to do today. And you know that part where he's eating all the candy and the sugar and he has maple syrup, and that's how I felt. That was one of those Elf moments where I was like, this can totally work. This We can get onto the city, we can put worms out there, we can use the stuff that they can't compost with because there's lots of rules with composting, especially municipal composting. We can figure out how to do that. We can feed it to the worms and we're going to produce really good castings. That so a I am like, I don't know, a toddler on pixie sticks all the time. That's how fast I think, that's how fast I move. Everything should move that fast in the world. Municipalities and governments
Oh,
don't move that
yeah.
quickly. They so desperately want to, but it's really hard because we're moving a 7 million ton boat in molasses in in February to change laws and rules. And one of the most interesting things that sort of happened out of this, okay, slow down, Roxanne. We got a couple things to do. And just because you are excited about it and just because you know that worms can do it, I we need to have some white papers. We need to have some experiments. And that's where that sort of our company shifted from not just making really good castings, like really good fungal castings, but doing the research in how to utilize some of this really hard stuff to break down, especially to compost, how we can use worms in that area and that research to figure out how to not just break down plastic, fabric, all these sorts of things and compostables into fractured plastic, but how to actually break them down into daughter products. And that probably happened 2018, 2019. And now that was sort of that shifting moment where you had the elf on maple syrup and marshmallows to being more of a thoughtful, I don't want to say businessman because my dad was an amazing businessman and he taught me a lot just through osmosis, but learning how to read the room and read the people that you want to buy into it, and that research takes time. So 3 years later we're getting onto sites, we're submitting papers to being peer reviewed, we're working with institutions like education institutions to not only vet our research, but to do their own research. And that has been the major turning point for us as a company. So that's where we are today. So
That's
yeah.
awesome.
See, I told you a lot of times I told you we'd be done way too early. Ah, you're done, go home.
Yeah. No, that's an awesome story. I can appreciate all your hard work. I know that you've been super
That's
generous to me over the
so
years.
fun.
Handing me over a couple bags of worm castings. I've got a bucket right next to me over here. You know, but
Yeah, but people are generous. People have been so generous with me, teaching me how to be better, how to be a better business person, how to be better manager, how to be better at environmental issues, and not rolling my eyes and shaking my head when I see stuff that is just so blatantly stupid. How to control my emotions. And I think, that being generous comes from a place of gratefulness. And
mhm.
ooh, that makes me want to cry. When you're given a situation where your kid is sick, oh my gosh, this is still kicking my butt. And this has been 5 years ago. Um, but you gain a set of humbleness and a set of gratefulness that you can never get on another journey. Oh, stop it. What is it? Is it past my bedtime? I'm being so weird, but I've been treated with great generosity, and I think that's easy for me to give that back.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
for sure.
with
It definitely
Kleenex
humbles
is
a
helpful.
person when you have something that goes on in your life like that. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'm eternally grateful for what you've done for me. Uh, I know it's helped me, in my gardens and benefited my gardening
Well,
abilities, and even my wife. I bought her a big tub for her birthday one year, and we've used it out in our gardens, and we truly do enjoy your products. But
it's so funny. Okay, I so when I went into this, the field of dreams, if you build it, they will come. So
yeah.
every accelerator in the business world I've ever gone to, they're like, that doesn't work. That doesn't work because, people don't care. They don't care as much as you because you're the founder. And I'm like, yeah, I get that, but here's the problem. Like, if I build it, everybody will come because it's awesome.
Yeah.
And then and then we had this campaign. One of the people that worked here had this came, and it was give a gift of poop, right? It's called, instead of birthday, it's called perp day, right, with a p. And I was amazed at how many people gave their loved ones castings as a gift, because inside of each one of those things, it tells you how many pounds of waste we have fed to the worms in order to produce
Hmm.
this. We 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 not only do that, but we also calculate how many cars it keeps off the road, the CO2 emissions, the methane. Well, CO2 is kind of a misnomer, but the methane that's going into the environment. And what's really stupid cool is the amount. So every time you use it, the amount of atmospheric carbon that it sequesters is really cool. So when we do the calculations and we run like the modeling and the scenarios of it, we don't have to do too much in order to help our soil sequester enough carbon that we can be. So you have to be very careful about how you use this language. We can be slowing down the effects maybe of the monster amounts of consumerism that we have used to sort of put our world into where we are. Is that okay to say it like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Because you don't want to use this language, this very this language that doesn't mean anything. We have to be precise when we talk.
Yeah.
To be precise, because I can't say blue, right? When we're talking about the environment, there's 20 million colors of blue. So when we talk, we have to be precise. And I think one thing that we've sort of forgotten about all of this is, in our true quest, and everybody wants to be thoughtful about their purchases, and people want to purchase things that truly are good for the environment and are giving back, but we've been sort of misled in what that actually means. Because most green things, we are just pushing the negative benefits to somewhere else, right?
Mm.
Instead of, so, like turbines. I'm not saying good or bad, but or electric cars. Not saying good or bad, but it takes, we don't have enough mining in the world to produce enough batteries for electric cars right now. So we're pushing that off somewhere else. But I was grateful to understand that here in Medicine Hat, this tiny little town that we live in, we can actually um, keep the benefit of making castings from waste, landfill waste here. We're not pushing it anywhere else. We get to use it here. And I I really didn't understand how important that was until I was in St. Louis at a conference or something. And they talked about the ability to keep stuff at home. And
Mhm.
I I had a light bulb moment, and that all sort of came through with this birthday campaign because people wrote back to us and said, you know, since I gave my dad this gift, he's been really more thoughtful about composting. Or since I gave my mom this gift, she is wearing her clothes more often rather than throwing them away. Or my daughter has kept her phone longer because of the rare metals that are in her phone. And I didn't realize that we could keep those wins here until we saw that campaign. So that was life changing for me. So thank you for giving casting.
All right, I
That was very
guess
convoluted to tell you that, so sorry.
no, no, it's all good. This is what we're here for, have conversations. I guess switching up a little bit, let's kind of dig into worm poop, worm castings.
Mm.
Maybe tell us a little bit of the process, without giving away too many of your trade secrets. Um, where do you get started in a larger type operations? Do you need any sort of schooling behind you? And what are kind of the physical objects you need to start a million worm farm?
Yeah. No schooling, trial and error. Um, though I do have an environmental background and a microbiological background, I count those as assets, though you don't need it. If you can smell and you can touch stuff, you could probably do it without anything. Um, I think being curious and being okay with failure is an incredibly important part because when we start, I mean, I had had a worm bin for 25 years. So I thought I knew lots about worms, but I was woefully underprepared for scaling up. One of the funniest stories was, so when we first started in 2019, 2018, at the beginning of 2019, it was very cold. We had one of those winter snaps that was like freeze your keister off, 4 layers of long johns are not going to help you. And we had not built the new facility at that time, so we were in an old Quonset that just had oil filled spray foam and didn't have any in-floor heating or anything like that. So anyways, um the power went out, and so and I didn't realize it, and I was such a big fat baby, and we didn't have any AI running, so we didn't have not that my house is far from the Quonset, but I'm delicate, right? Like I'm like, oh, it's 40 zillion below, those worms are fine. So anyways, we went down there, the power went out. My poor husband went down there, the power went out, and sure as crap, the worms were like escaping all of their containers. And in that moment, it was like note to self, like install remote sensors so you can tell what the temperature of the Quonset is. So
Yeah.
now we have all remote sensors and we can tell everything. But that was a steep learning curve, and probably 500,000 worms died that day.
Oh,
And that sucked. Oh, that
yeah.
sucked because worms are so, people think are like worms are easy to grow. No, they're not. They're complicated. They're
Mm-hmm.
so complicated and they're so expensive. So the first few we brought up from California, but then the rules at the border have changed, and it is complicated. So now we take the husbandry of worms incredibly serious, and we're getting it down. We're probably 50% of the way there, so we got a lot to learn. But every day, those failures, they teach you how to be better. So failure, if you can't handle failure, then worm farming is not it. And if you believe everything that's on the internet is true about worm farming, that will not help you, because I cannot. God love them, right? I have so many. So when I do trade shows, and let's be honest, I traditionally try not to leave the farm because I'm not great in public. I'm super awkward, and then when I get nervous, I like start spitting out Latin bacteria names, and people are like, okay, calm down, crazy, like nobody cares. I'm like, no, but you don't understand how important this is. And they're like, okay, go sit over there because you're weird. And so I generally try not to. I go to them, but I like having people that are more calm and more like even keeled than me at them. But when I do go, I cannot tell you, I'd be a zillionaire if I had 25 cents for every time somebody said, on I saw it on the internet, and I was like, oh, did you? Right. Oh, so they have 50 worms. That is a different bull of chicken there than 5 million.
Yeah.
And there's different management skills if it's in your basement or you have Quonsets full of it. And so I used to correct people. I used to be, okay, that brown liquid crap that's coming out of your worm bed is bad. That is not fertilizer. That is not tea. That is a pathogenic leachate. That is the crap that, oh, hey, see? Do you see me rabbit holding? Stop it, right? That is so full of pathogens. Please don't have your beds like that. Your worms don't even like it. It's full of listeria, salmonella, E. coli. Gross. No, thank you. But now I've gotten less smarty pants, and everybody has to start somewhere.
Hmm.
And most people are not accelerating at the pace that we are, because we have employees that we have to pay. We have research grants that we have to fulfill. We have companies that we vet products for, and everybody's learning. And I think my education has been very public, and I have made so many mistakes. So that has given me some grace with people and benevolence. And you listen to them and you smile and you say, oh, that's interesting, but have you thought of this? And I think that journey has led me to be a better worm farmer.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So no formal education. The internet is interesting, but there's some really excellent authors out there and research scientists. Rhonda Sherman at the North Carolina University is phenomenal. Dr. Norman Ericon, who I am absolutely smitten with. Oh, shenanigans. Yeah, it goes. My husband, Dr. Norman. I'm telling you, the guy is brilliant. I would love to spend 15 minutes just in his head. Uh, Christy Bentley is another excellent one. Dan Rollinson, who lives just down the road here, brilliant. He's been around for a long time. He's probably one of the godfathers in southern Alberta of it, and he has made some really interesting um, headway in growing worms and harvesting, and I have a lot of respect for him. What do you need? So we have a 40 by 80 shop that's insulated with in-floor heating, that is climate controlled pretty precisely so that we can keep the worms eating at their optimum rate
Hmm.
and making babies at their optimum rate. So we keep the Quonset. Natural gas has gone up, electricity has gone up. So
Oh, yeah.
we used to keep the Quonset at about 22 degrees, between 22 and 23 degrees. So you could wear shorts in there in the wintertime.
Hmm.
Now we're trying to keep it at 19, between 19 and 20 degrees, because at, $1,600 a month, $1,700 a month, it's pretty ugly to heat a shop like that.
Yeah.
And so we used to, because our company is circular in nature, we've tried really diligently to not buy stuff. So our mandate is to reuse and
Reduce.
upcycle most everything. So if you come into our Quonset and you're like, so I have an amazing computer and an amazing computer system with ML, and that's new because I don't know if 1982 could handle that kind of machinery. But um, our trauma was made out of parts that we recycle from
Yeah.
or an old combine. Our what else? Our compost um, sieve was made out of a seed cleaner. The old ICB totes, so we cut them in half in the worms. So we still use those specifically for research. So one of the cool things about research that we're doing right now is we are finding out the rate of dilution of fabric, and if in what situations, which fabrics, under what conditions will break down the fastest, because this is going to boggle your mind. Did you know the average person only wears their stuff in the closet 7 times before it goes into the landfill?
What?
Yeah, seven times. Does that boggle your mind?
I don't even
And even
I don't even
though
have enough clothes to wear their stuff 7 times.
I
I have to wear them
know,
like
I
at
know.
least 50. But
it's
yeah, the
it's so
average
funny
person,
because
that's crazy.
the average person
Seven
only wears
times. Oh
something
man.
7 times. And when I thought about that, I was like, holy crap. Like that's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I feel like I want to show you my pants because they have holes in them, but I'm like, shopping, no thanks. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to go through that. Me weeping in the change room. But right, like, so we decided to sort of tackle that, and how and which. So there's always been this sort of idea that polyester and rayon and viscose, these sort of very synthetic fabrics, can't be broken down into um, useful daughter products. And we're finding that it can under really specific circumstances. And one of the interesting things that we've done is we've made a couple beds with polyester, like old polyester, and we're impregnating it with oyster mushrooms. And I know that you grow mushrooms,
Yeah.
and I'm not great at it, but we can get stuff to grow. But there's a really nice relationship between the breakdown of um, the microbes, the worms, and the mushrooms to get us into daughter products rather than just fracturing it so it's microparticles. And I was more impressed the second time we had done it through. Like the first time you do stuff, you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that's an anomaly. But the second time we did it through, we got it down to an acceptable level, like something I would use on our own fields. Like as farmers, as a farmer, I would use this on my field and not worry that I was contaminating anything or screwing up the microbes or whatever. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. So that the rest of this research is going on till I think we should be done it in May, and we should have enough data points collected to be able to actually write a paper about it, which is really quite a uh an important thing, right?
Yeah.
Like, though we are not associated with any particular educational institution, we want to be vetted by the institution so that we can say, we aren't just Jenny Craig in this pill here. We're doing the scientific method. We're showing you all the goods and the bads. We're showing you the successes. We're showing you the failures. And that sort of reliability and that transparency has made the education of worms and sort of this inclusive and whole food web thing have more legitimacy when we go and talk to um, municipalities and governments about maybe some rule changes or maybe some addendums to how can we do this better and stop allowing these sort of valuable resources go into the landfill. Like,
Hmm.
how can we save some of this out, save us money, save us all the off gassing, and produce a really good product at the end, the castings or vermicompost or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
that's been one of the coolest things.
That's awesome.
So
Um,
I will say, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was all I was just gonna say is I know you kind of were doing some research on the biodegradability of certain biodegradable plastics and cardboard straws and cups and stuff. Can you
Yep.
dive a little bit into that? Tell us which ones you found that were breaking down the fastest and which ones were the worst. I think I remember you saying something about Starbucks being the
Absolutely.
worst or the best. I can't remember.
Yeah, shenanigans, those guys. Okay, so we got to be really clear. We talked about this clear language. So biodegradable and compostable. So everything is biodegradable, but not everything that's biodegradable is compostable. And we talk about that a lot because Canada's rules are super vague. So
Mm,
when they're bringing in plastics from from third parties, right? They can put biodegradable on it, and rocks are biodegradable. Arsenic is
yeah.
biodegradable. Nuclear contamination is biodegradable, right? So
Yeah, it
yeah,
depends on how many years that takes. It is.
you are absolutely right. And with biodegradability, they're not talking about what product is left at the end.
Mm,
So composting is is remarkable, and I have a lot more respect for it since I went and got certified and did the schooling for that. I'm a lot more I'm a I'm a lot more thoughtful about composting and being able to compost and vermicompost most of these biodegradable compostable plastics. And one of the coolest things is for the most part, companies want to do the right thing. They want to be the leaders in this. And I am probably pretty skeptical about a lot of these new products that are on the market now because I'm like, really? Oh, no, shenanigans. Like what if you're making out of polypropylene and polyethylene, really? What do you think that's going to break down to? I don't know. Fairy dust? No, it doesn't. It breaks down into fractured plastic. However, the stuff that we're seeing is actually really remarkable. So Keurigs,
yeah,
like the
the little
things with the cups.
cups.
Okay,
Yep.
Keurigs, yeah, Keurigs are the hear this, and this was just in a report out by the Compost Council of Canada. Not particularly Keurigs, but the cups. I don't know
Yeah, they're
how to
just
say it
called
without
K
using
cups, I think.
K cups, thank you,
Yeah.
because we can't use any brand names
Yeah.
because somebody will bend us over. So K cups are the single fastest growing fastest sector in contamination plastics in composting, including plastic bags,
Hmm.
right? So we're in Alberta, we're taking out plastic bags, we're taking out this, we're taking out that, which is so. I mean, as Oliver North said, and I love Oliver. That's a good book. You should read it. Oliver North said the irony thing. He said it is like a fart in a hurricane, right? We are missing the point. We're missing the point. Taking plastic bags out of grocery stores, right?
Yeah, it seems like we
This
kind
is
of
a
just went from 0 to 60 with that. Like it was overnight where we took all grocery bags out. We went to straws that were completely, pliable as soon as you stuck it through the lid, the plastic lid, like it was just so many weird things that we just did overnight with no like reasoning, behind
forethought.
anything.
Well,
Yeah.
swear to God, everything happened after that picture of the turtle with the straw in its nose.
Yeah.
You know that picture
Yeah, yeah.
where they pulled the straw out of the turtle's nose?
Yeah.
That was the catalyst for all of this crazy.
And it's
And
like
yes,
we
do we
live
need to
like
move
1,500
more?
kilometers away from the ocean and we're saving turtles over here. Like,
Yeah, because what do we put our garbage in? Our big black garbage bags, are they made out of hemp? No, they're
yeah.
made out of plastic. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what we're doing here.
I mean, I'm all for it. I'm all for the whole, greener, go greener kind of style with the whole, plastics. Yeah, we need to reduce our microplastics and all that stuff, but it's just like it's kind of contradicting when you throw away your products in a plastic bag.
Yeah, and that's the part that's hilarious. But I mean, I think the intentions are good. Maybe the execution is a little wonky, but I'm going to say some very controversial stuff here but as a scientist and an environmental scientist, I'm telling you, Sweden has it right. We should be burning 99% of this. That's why the strides in scrubber technology have changed
Mm.
the entire landscape of what we are doing, right? These scrubbers are so efficient that we are seeing a negative impact on stuff that needs a certain amount of carbon, fallout from these big industrial things. And the remarkable thing is the capturing of the heat and that sort of thing and being able to use it to do other things. I mean, there's a couple of big industrial incinerators in Alberta. And if anybody's watching, I'd love to come and tour your plant because we need to talk about this because I would say 90 I honestly I think we could reduce the amount of contaminants in our environment if they would let us burn. I don't know if somebody is taking up that champion because that's not my thing. I like dirt, I like soil,
Mhm.
but somebody needs to do that. And I think Medicine Hat would be an incredible place for a huge incinerator for a few reasons. One, sort of like this, we are like the central hub of nowhere, right? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we are the central hub that if we had one, the ability to accommodate a lot of small communities that would really benefit from that would be amazing. But whoa, I don't know where that went, but there's this plastic thing. Okay, we're going to skip over that. But call me if somebody wants to build an incinerator.
I can see how that's a little
But
controversial. Yeah.
super controversial. But when you look at Sweden, I mean, come on,
Yeah. Something I'll have to look into for sure.
that speaks for itself,
Yeah.
right? It speaks for itself. Their landfills are, it doesn't matter. Look into it. It's really quite an interesting thing. It is controversial.
Yeah.
Just like, does everybody love wind turbines? I'm not particularly a huge fan.
Not up here.
No,
Especially
not
after the
not
week we just
particularly a
had
huge
with
fan.
snow and -30. So, no, I'm good.
Yeah, and these are tough conversations. We want to be better and we always have to be moving forward, but we're going to make mistakes, right?
Yeah.
So, how do we mitigate that the best? Well, one of them is those K cups, right?
Hmm.
Single biggest contributor to the plastic contamination. Maxwell House came out with a compostable one, and I was like, no, this cannot work.
Yeah, I actually
So,
bought a box of those for camping the one year, and I was like, everything, the lid, the ring, the whole mesh cup, all compostable. I'm like, it's kind of strange. It looks like it's
yeah,
plastic.
yeah. And I was like, no, this cannot work. And so we gave ourselves 20 weeks to see, right, start to finish, if we could see if it would. And we did it thermolytically and mesophilically. So we did it with traditional composting and we did it with the worms. And it was funny because lots of my friends are like, at my age, we call it capital responsibility, but I'm cheap. I have a French press, so I'm not going to buy them. But my
I
friends,
love
and
my
those are
French
cost
press.
more. Yeah, but those cost more. So lots of my friends who use that system don't buy them. I'm like, okay, listen, I will buy these for you if you save all the cups for me. And so we did about, I think we did 200 of them, 100 in each. And I was like, holy crap. Like I was super impressed. After the 20 weeks, we could pull up the study, but after 20 weeks, there was maybe 8 or 10% left
Wow.
of the cup. I was like, wait a minute. So did this just fracture into smaller pieces of whatever this is? And I couldn't find any. So we sent it off to the actual lab and I was so impressed. I was like, no way. This is a thing. I was really impressed. So this would be worth the money to me if that's a system I had. I was impressed. I will be honest. So we also have an amazing family that saves all their Tim Hortons cups for us because Tim Hortons, one of the biggest suppliers in obviously Canada of coffee. And I'm like this. I wanted to do a 5-year trial. I want to do 5 years of decomposing or denuding Tim Hortons cups. And then I'm like this. We should do them all. We should
Yeah.
do Tim Hortons, McDonald's, and Starbucks. So we did it. And I'm like, oh, okay. So so we've been, what is this? Year three? And we're gonna do for 5 years. Year three. And so out of the three, which ones do you think is the best?
McDonald's. Only because of the
Yep.
way their cup, like I drink both McDonald's and Tim Hortons. I don't support Starbucks.
Yep.
It's overpriced.
Mm,
Um, but
mhm.
I usually drink McDonald's, and their cups feel like paper. Tim
Yep.
Hortons, I would say, would probably be in second, just because it's got like a little bit of a waxy kind of
Yep.
paper cup. But yeah, I would say Starbucks is probably, yeah, the worst.
Absolutely. So McDonald's, we can break it down in 12 days.
12
12
days?
days.
Jeez.
12 days. And all that's left is they have a very thin, and I think it's polyethylene. I'm not really sure.
Between the
Um,
two layers?
I Yeah, so there's two layers,
Yeah.
right? So there's the inside cup, then there's this whatever it is, polyethylene, I'm gonna say, might be polypropylene, but and then the outside cup.
Yeah.
And and 12 days. Okay. Tim
Yeah.
Hortons, 14 days.
Wow.
But
Close second.
there is, yeah, so very close. But they're repelling, I guess, I don't know what you would call it. Their structure on the inside is thicker than the McDonald's one. So when here, let me pull up the numbers. So the dilution rate on McDonald's was 92%. Tim Hortons was 89%. So very, very close.
By
I was so impressed.
dilution rate is how fast it breaks down?
How much is left
Oh,
after it
so
broke
yeah,
down.
yeah,
So we're talking within just a couple percentages.
yeah.
Starbucks.
Wow.
So Starbucks had the least amount left, but it also takes about 16 weeks. So,
Jeez.
and I
That's
don't know
so much
if it,
longer.
yeah, and I don't know if it's because they're using much higher poundage paper or cardboard or whatever they're using. I don't know
Hmm.
if their compression of it is just so much more that it takes so much longer. There's not as much surface area to break into, or what it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe
And
it's a
I
lot
didn't,
more denser. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
and I
Hmm.
don't know. They weren't part of my trial because I don't know. I'm not a huge I don't know. I'm too capitally responsible to spend $9 on a coffee, but whatever, right? Like everybody's,
Same
my
here.
kid
Yeah.
loves Starbucks. I'm like, really? Really? That's why you don't have any
Yeah.
children in a house to pay for. So,
Right.
but I was so grateful, honestly, impressed with them that I had a very different idea. Like I had a very different after we did this and we've done it a few times and it's been consistent. I feel like I am impressed with sometimes you think big corporations are evil in the fact that they only want to do the minimum amount.
Hmm.
And I was impressed. I was even impressed with Starbucks, right? 16 weeks. Yeah, it sucks, but they only had maybe 3% left. So it's they're all doing the right thing. And that was so surprising to me because I was like, whatever. So one of the other things that was so interesting is Walmart, right? You think Walmart is this evil corporation, and I mean, I'm not, like I'm a capitalist. I was teaching one time. You would have peed your pants. I was teaching one time, and I got called a capitalist, like in a negative thing, and I'm like this. Listen, you university yucks. Okay, first of all, did you save up 25 or $100,000 to go to university? No, you didn't. Either your mommy and daddy did, or you're taking student loans. So there's your capitalism. And I'm like, how many homeless people employ other people? None. How did you pay for the pants that you were here? Capitalism is, right? Like we
Hmm.
don't want to break the backs of our workers, of course not. But I and then this lady's like, you're a kind capitalist. I said, don't ever call me that. Like, that just makes me feel like an idiot. Kind capitalism sounds like an oxymoron. I don't know where I went off the rails on that one.
Oh, it's all
I
good.
can't even remember what I was talking about. But that made me mad. Like, shit, you dumb kid. Um, oh, I know. Okay, so the straws. So straws have been a very controversial thing, right? Plastic straws are a thing. They never break down, blah, 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 blah. So Booster Juice had purple straws. They were the first ones to
Mm.
really bring in biodegradable. So they're biodegradable. Well, so is all plastic, but they brought in these purple straws. And it was interesting because I'm like, do you honestly think these are going to break down? I'm like, so we've had since 2018, we've had two purple straws in a bed that have never broken down. And I'm like,
Jeez.
okay, so something is wonky.
So almost 5 years, 4 years.
Almost 5
Yeah.
years. Yeah.
Wow.
And they have not broken down at all.
And they claim it's
But
biodegradable.
oh, right, but they were the first, right? So
Yeah.
maybe this was at the beginning of the formulation and they weren't great. But now people bring us their straws because they think that it's funny and they want to be part of the study. Anyways, but now their straws break down 10 weeks, 12 weeks. So we are moving in the right direction.
Hmm.
And I think the government of Canada, especially the federal government, because they're the ones that regulate it, they need to have a way more precise vetting policy for letting this stuff be called one thing or another. Because people are consumers, they want to buy the stuff that has the least impact. But if we don't know what that actually is, how do we do that?
Yeah.
And I think it muddies the water a lot to have 10 different words that are they're within 1 degree of separation that mean the same thing. And I hope, and I have to say the Recycle Council of Canada has been doing a really good job of lobbying. And you know how lobbyists are usually like the evil enemy of whatever, but they're actually doing a pretty good job of lobbying the government to make changes to packaging and requiring packaging to say different things. And I respect that a lot.
Hmm.
So I feel like we're moving in the right direction and we're making really good choices um, as consumers because we read the packages and even I don't know it. I live in this world and sometimes I'm like, I don't even know what that says. I'm like, holy crap. Like, if I don't know what it says and I live and I write papers on this, how is other people supposed to know? And that was one of the big things when we talked at that conference was having clear language and what it means. And I think that is something that we really need to support in so you can make the choices. Like I don't want the government to tell me if I want to buy a friggin' plastic straw, I'll buy a plastic straw. Like I don't want the government to tell me what I need to buy, but I want the government to require companies to be clear and concise about what this is so I can make the choice whether I want this or that. And using sort of um, dirty language or confusing language is not acceptable anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
Agreed.
is that political? Didn't mean to be political, but
Oh, it's all good. Um, all right. I guess kind of moving things towards kind of a grow topic kind of thing. Um, let's maybe get into a little bit of worm casting teas. Um,
mm,
I know you make these little kits so you can just buy a pouch and turn it into a tea, um, just by letting it steep pretty much. But uh, what kind of benefits will you see from just a simple worm casting tea? Um, any sort of microbes, bacterias? What's going to be the benefits for the plants?
um, yes. So there's two different things. So there's extract and there's tea. And this is how when we teach the classes on this is how we so extract is whatever it is. So say it's compost or worm castings, is we are stripping off the microbes and the fungi from that. There's no additives, right? That's the extracts. The tea, just like normal people tea, we put milk and honey in it or something. The teas have the extra additives in it. So we'll just talk about extracts because this tea world, so controversial because
Yeah.
there is such a like I went to I went to a conference, and we're all like, I don't know, like we live this world. And there was such there was such strong emotions about it.
Hmm.
It was I was like this. Do you remember like I don't know. I was like, am I having an out of body experience? Like I can't even take 2 more minutes of you people. Like this is not going to hurt anything. So why are we having like, you know, like
A
people threw
huge
stuff.
debate
Like it
about
was
it.
the funniest thing. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
like this. Calm down, crazy. Pick what you like, see what works for you. So
Yeah.
extracts are basically we're stripping the microbes off of the surface area of whatever we're using, compost or vermicompost or castings. And the benefit of that is is like instant instant food, right?
Hmm.
Like instant food. And one of the things that is so interesting about extracts is that the plant you can see within 24 hours, you can see the actual change of the plant. And so the stuff that we make is actually a tea. So because we use biochar, because biochar for me and humic acid, those are the things that are so lacking, I would say, in 85 to 90% of all the soil samples I look at. And I look at probably 5,000 a year. So I look at a lot of samples. And I would say those three things are missing out of all of it. So that's why we use biochar, because carbon is one of those things that is so necessary that we just don't have, in organic matter. We just don't have enough of it. But the quick response of the biology in situ, so in the soil, to reproduce, to go to where the exudates are of the plant, to answer the exudates, right? Plants push out exudates and tell the microbes around it what it needs, right?
Hmm.
And the microbes respond so quickly to that, to the exudates, that you can see an actual transformation of it in the plant within 24 hours. And so say you have a plant that's struggling. Let's use rose bushes for one. And rose bushes are really quite a they're an interest so they're an interesting plant because they are so phosphorus sensitive, right? They get that purple weird thing around it. And you can see on the new growth that all of that is sort of taken care of, and that is through the microbial exchange of the exudates and the sort of nutrient cycling of it. I am such a firm believer of that. We spray our fields with it. We actually pump it through our pivot, which has been an absolute mind blowing shenanigans. I did not realize what an impact it would have. And and it reduces the necessity of other things. Like don't get me wrong, NPK is incredibly important, but if we can't use NPK, what's it for?
Yeah.
And I I I have seen, and I could stand on my soapbox and talk about teas and exudates and extracts all day long because it is astonishing the impact it has. And for super cost effectiveness,
Yeah.
yeah,
I've
I
seen on
mean,
your Instagram, um, you you go to different people's houses that have pea burns from their dogs in their
yes,
lawns, and you do
yep,
an application or two of worm casting extracts, and their lawn is rejuvenated, back to green. You know, as much as lawns are
mhm,
lawns, it's the
yeah,
you know not everyone agrees with having a lawn and they should just all turn it into a vegetable garden, which I would love, but it is kind of just what it is. I like the feeling between my feet of grass, but it's
absolutely.
it's beautiful what you've done to transform, the urea, for lack of better words, piss stains in
Yeah,
grass,
absolutely.
to a beautiful lush green, golf course quality grass.
Hmm.
It just shows
And
the
what's
benefits.
and yeah, and what's so remarkable about it is it's so easy to do,
Yeah.
right? Like it is so easy to do. You can put the little bag in the water overnight, wash it a few times, like scrub it up and down a few times, and go and use it. That and I'm a very simplistic human being, right? Like I don't need 74 steps. When I look at recipes to cook for supper, if it's more than 10 things, I'm like, nah. Like really? No. Like and and if it works and it's easy and I don't have to use PPE and I have eaten more castings than you can shake a stick at. I'll tell you a funny story. So we were on a huge job site. I'll have to tell you about I'll have to tell you about the bylaw guys. Anyways, we were on a huge job site and we had we had four IBC totes, so 4,000 liters, and our big transfer pump, of course, crapped out in the middle of it, right? So
Mm.
I had to old school. So I am like siphoning.
Oh,
I mean, it's gross,
yeah.
right? But would I do that with glyphosate? Hell no.
No, hell no.
Even though like, right? No, of course not. Would I do that with Victor? No, I wouldn't. But the fact is so okay, and it's so forgiving that even if you don't get it perfect, it still works really well. I'll tell you a funny story. So we go and spray people's lawns and their trees and deal with aphids and all those sorts of things, right? And we were on a job site, and here comes bylaw, and they're like, "Hey, you need PPE." I'm like, "No, we're biological, and here's my paperwork. Here's all my stuff to show you what this is." And he's like, "Oh, can you touch it with your hands?" I said, "Of course." And it doesn't smell like anything. It smells like I don't. It
Soil
doesn't really smell like
almost.
anything.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
it's just
that's a it doesn't smell yucky. It just,
an
yeah, it smells like soil.
organic. Yeah, it's just organic
Yeah.
soil. Nothing.
anyways, so they're like, so he's like, well, taste it. And I'm like, okay. So I stuck my finger in and I tasted it. And he's like, oh, okay. Yeah. So they left us alone. No big deal. And then we were at another job site. And I won't tell you what Smarty Pants expensive part of town it was,
Oh,
because we get called out there more than we get called. Like people tattle on us out there all the time. And then the bylaw dude's like, hey, I'm like, hey, right? Like, because it's such a funny thing because people watch and people care. And when we spray these lawns or inject these lawns and they look amazing, right? And the color is better and they don't have as much drought stress and they have all these benefits, these biological benefits, and you don't have any of the PPE and it doesn't stink and your dog can walk on it. And I don't know if I told you, but our dog, yeah, I did. Our dog passed away. Oh my
oh,
gosh, that makes me cry. He was the best dog.
yeah, he
Oh, he was
was.
such
Oh, such a nice
died
dog.
of cancer.
Oh,
Such a good dog.
yeah,
But he,
we just had a dog die of cancer as well just a few months back.
oh, sorry.
Yeah,
It's the worst. And then Cypress View, they sent us a card with his paw prints. I just about lost my mind.
yeah,
Anyways, but our dog, he was more precious to me than most of humanity. He could walk on it, and I never felt like I wasn't scared for him to walk on it.
yeah.
And I'm so grateful that worm castings, this humble little worm, has allowed us to find a new way to have really nice lawns and to have really good vegetables and all those sorts of things and grow easily,
Hmm.
right? Like what a gift that is. Like if I had to have a garden where I had to spray on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock so I didn't have any drift, forget that. I'd let everything die. Right? Like,
Yeah,
no, I'm not managing that far. So I'm thankful for how easy it is. And the extracts, boom, drop it in a thing, set it the next day, done. You can aerate it. Sure, you might get a little bit better, but not by much. I will tell you, Dr. Uh, Elaine
yeah,
Ingram,
yeah.
uh, she
Soil
she
biologist.
does soil biologist, one of the forefathers of it.
Mm,
I actually did her whole course, which was very good because it's so practical. But she does it back to back, aeration and just hand washing.
hmm.
And yeah, there's a little bit of a difference, but if you don't have to manage an aerator or pay for the electricity for an aerator and you want 5 gallons of it, absolutely. We do 1,200, we do 2,400 gallons at a time in the shop. And yeah, of course, I'm
Yeah,
not
I've
going to
seen
hand
your
scrub 24.
big,
Yeah,
huge brewing setup there. It's massive, and
yeah,
I don't want
massive.
it.
Yeah, it's so cool. I'm so thankful for that. Do I want to do that by hand? Hell no. I mean,
Nope.
can you imagine how jacked I'd be? Ugh, but I would never have to go to the gym again. But you know, we have the ability to do this simply. And that's the thing that worms have taught me. It doesn't have to be complicated. The worms take care of the complexity, right? We just have to be good stewards of it and move it in a manner in which we can sustain that sort of pace. And that's such a cool, holy crap, that's cool, right? Like, that's
Yeah,
so cool. Worms.
that's
Ah,
awesome.
worms.
Such a fascinating topic. I love it.
I know. Shenanigans. I'm writing my thesis on sustainable, like, circular economics and biological environmental economics using vermicomposting. And I when I look at this paper, like, this is like 40 pages or something, and I look at this paper, and basically it all boils down to the simplicity of the worm and how nature has adapted has adapted to allow this simple approach to it to be so effective. And that in and of itself is amazing. We are always looking for the complexity. Like the AI and ML that we run, holy crap, it is complex out the yin yang.
Hmm,
And it's complex on the back of a humble little worm. How cool is that?
yeah,
Isn't that
that's awesome.
amazing?
Oh yeah.
I have friggin' Skynet in my Quonset and worms. The juxtaposition is hilarious.
Right. So I guess we've been kind of going for a little bit longer than an hour here. That's
Oh
okay with.
crap! I'm sorry. Okay, I'll
No,
stop
that's
talking.
okay with me. The more the merrier
Dirksen.
here. But maybe just one last little topic here. Uh, do you have anything in the future, uh, for projects or new products that you're gonna come out with? I know you have a biochar. I use that, but
Hmm.
do you have anything you're excited for?
Oh man, every day I wake up with sunshine raining out of my butt. So we are so lucky right now. We're so lucky. So we're building big industrial modular systems that come in sea cans, and we basically plop them onto place, and in 24 hours we can be running on your facility. So that has been an absolute labor of love. And one of the coolest things is, oh, that's so cool. So institutions can can process all of their biological waste on site, harvest the castings, and use their castings on site. And the remarkable thing about this is I just sometimes I'm like I can't even comprehend how cool this is. Is we have we have both aspects of the market, right? In this one little machine, both aspects. So we have the garbage that is being produced, right? Transfers through the worms, and the castings that are being harvested, put back out, say, on your lawn or on whatever.
Yeah, and your big
And
garden
then,
boxes and stuff.
yeah, and then they the refuse from that and the food from that, the production of that goes back into the bed. They process it again and it comes out again. It's perfectly circular in its impact. And it has been it has been so Elizabeth Hargrave has a system at her farm, and it is amazing. It's amazing how fast it is changing. We get it to go out to Irvine and put one out there. We're City of Medicine Hat. We're putting one out there, Norquest College. Uh, and I am boggled. I am boggled at this very simplistic concept has such an incredible impact. Like, we're taking the waste. So the University of Calgary did a study in 2017 about how much is actually organic in nature. And they said anywhere between 60 and 80%. Well, so we did it. I was like, really? That seems interesting. Like 60 to 80%, that is a pretty big, right? Like, that's a pretty big gap. So if we could save 60% of what is going on, say at a school. So the average school kid throws out 16 kilos of
Jeez.
organic waste weekly. That's the average of a
Weekly.
school.
Oh,
Weekly, 16 kilos. But I mean, that's not just their food, that's the paper, that's
yeah.
all of that stuff. It's a big number. And and so say a school of whatever, 100 kids is throwing that much a waste away, and we could recover all of that waste, 60% of that, so 16 kilos per kid we could do on site. We could harvest all the castings, they could use it on their playground. The kids don't have to be off of it for 2 days because it's chemicals,
Hmm.
and they can grow their food, they can walk their dogs, and they can see the benefit of the carbon sequestering. Like that in and of itself is so mind-boggling to me that this solution is actually happening. It is so cool. And the other thing that is so amazing, because I can tell you it works, but I want to show you the empirical data that it works. Like as a scientist, like I'm like the doubting Thomas. I want to touch the holes, right? Like I want to understand how this actually works. And the AI, well, it's actually ML. So the machine learning is taking data points on every one of these projects, and it's pushing it so that we have a library to say we are recovering this much waste by weight. We are producing this much castings. We are collecting how much VOCs? Oh, zero. How much carbon are we off gassing? What is the actual parameter of this? And it's changing the way that we understand landfilling. Are landfills necessary? Of course they are. Like, don't get me wrong. Is this going to take away the need for synthetic inputs? No. I mean, I'm a farmer. Like, if I could figure out how to get rid of brome, I mean, geez, I'd be a millionaire. But this is one part of the equation of it, right? And and to understand that this little part can slow down the effects of these monster weather events, right? So these
Mm.
big weather events, we can slow that down till we have enough understanding about environmental systems that we can have a better answer than, say, I don't know, turbines that are supposed to have a lifespan of 25 years, but we're seeing them crap out in 10, right? And then there's 70 tons of cement that are going to be in the ground for forever because the end of life is not going to take them out.
Yeah, we have a
If
lot
we
of
can
them
find
around us. And they're just
yeah,
constantly
70
coming.
tons
Yeah.
that, it's like, yeah, I, I, I think, I think until we know more, this is a great solution to slow all of that down. And that is so stupid cool. I
Yeah.
mean, stupid cool. So yeah, I, I'm so grateful I get to even be part of this. Like every day I'm like, holy crap. Why? You have those moments, the imposter syndrome, which I have every day, but I think that pushes me a lot. Like if I thought I actually knew something about anything, I probably wouldn't push so hard. But I know I don't know anything. And that's what makes it to be curious, right? Like push hard. Let's be curious. You know, we go to manufacturers and they're like, okay, that's no, we can't do that. Like I'm like, yes, you can. Why not? Somebody figure it out how to make, I don't know, somebody on the moon with, less technology than our cell phones nowadays. You can't figure this out? Well, then we'll find somebody who can. And that's the amazing part about being curious and being able to push,
Yeah.
right? And being underestimated. And I think that has been my biggest gift. I count that as my superpower.
Yeah. No, you're doing an amazing job, and uh,
We are doing an amazing job.
yeah, yeah. Keep up the amazing work, and I hope you know. I hope nothing but the best for you. Um,
Well, I am super grateful and thank you for all the stuff you do. I appreciate it more than you know.
yeah. Kind of wrapping things up, I guess. Where can people find you? I know you're not really on too much of the internet. You don't really like that kind
No,
of stuff, so I guess where's your
I don't.
social media manager at?
Yeah.
Where can we
Jeez.
find you? Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, we're at Tradworm Industries Instagram, Tradworm Industries Facebook. I don't have a Twitter account because I just don't care what you had for lunch, Ryan Reynolds. I just no. I don't
Yeah,
know, Alyssa Milano. Nobody gives a crap about what you're saying. Sit down. I just don't care.
yeah.
Sorry. I have way better. And because I am unmedicated 70s child ADHD, like on steroids. Anybody that knows me, like it's a thing. Like when I rabbit hole, it's for like 2 days. I have zero ability to self-regulate. So that's why social media is tough. Like, and even TV. If I can't watch TV for half an hour. No, it's like I am like the all or nothing kind of person, like, and fast. And so that's why social media is a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Oh, so bad.
Well,
And then I get all insecure.
I really do want to have you on again. Maybe dive deeper into the bacteria, microbes, the whole, you know,
Oh, we could
uh,
look through my microscope.
oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, you're just a wealth of knowledge, and like I said at the beginning, I could talk to you for days and days on end. Um,
Well, I feel the same way about you and your munchkin. Your munchkin just
yeah,
brings delight to my heart.
I'll
She is
have to
such
come out
a
and visit again. She loves
yes,
that.
please.
Loves playing with
Well,
worms.
yeah, I ordered chickens. I ordered baby chickens. So you'll have
Nice.
to come out. You'll
Yes,
have to bring her
definitely
out when
coming
the
out then.
babies come. So
Yeah, I will be
she
out
will be
there.
like, oh, Dad, I'm taking home a chicken. And be like, Jeff, suck it. It's going on with you. So
I
thank
told
you
the
for
wife the
having
other
me. I
day.
am.
I said, "Hey, what do you think about getting 4 or 5 chickens?" She's like, "What? Where are we gonna put them?" I'm like, "Oh, there's a
Put them at
place
my
in the
house.
backyard. Pretty easy.
Yeah, put them.
We could
Put them.
just."
Put them at my house. I will. I will gladly. I will gladly share eggs with you. Can you have chickens in town? Did they pass that bylaw?
Oh, actually, I don't know. I think so. I want to
Because
say
the
yes.
plebiscite, because there was a big plebiscite about that, and I don't know if they did or not. Because I remember thinking I said I'm like, oh yes, please, because when people figure out they're a little bit more work than you think they are, then they'll all come to my house and I'll have some free chickens because I'm capitally irresponsible.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm cheap. Say it. So
That's awesome.
thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for inspiring us with the pics of your grows. They are beautiful, and your photography is beautiful. So
Oh, thank you.
I count it very you okay. So there's two people I have on notification, and you are one of them. I'll be
Oh.
honest, because no, it's not. I'm not blowing smoke up your butt because I just don't do that. But yeah, I really enjoy the pictures, and they make me happy. So
Yeah. I try to
I
tag
count
you in
myself
everything I
lucky.
use, so try to make sure I
I'm pretty grateful for that. So
yeah.
thank you so much. And I will get out of your hair. So what time do you go to work in the morning?
Tomorrow 7? 7? Yeah, I start at 7 tomorrow, so
Oh,
it's all
good
good.
grief.
I'm up till midnight anyway, so it's all good.
You only wow. Okay, no, I'm yeah, good on you. So
But
thank you
yeah,
very much and have a really good night.
you as well, Roxanne.
Bye.
Thank you. See you later.